Hello and welcome to the Empress podcast. I am your host, Jessica, known in the online space as Jess the Empress. I started this podcast to help you be present with yourself, cope with chaos, and simplify your life. I do this by combining psychology, behavioral science, and the tarot. I have a background in mental health, specifically a master's in clinical social work from USC, and I'm a professional tarot reader. So get ready to have a nurturing, creative, and empowering experience with me as we use practical magic. Hey there, coffee lovers. Are you tired of settling for boring coffee? I have a treat for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Heartwork Coffee Bar, your one-stop destination for exceptional coffee experiences. Whether you're a coffee connoisseur or just someone who appreciates a great cup of joe, Heartwork Coffee Bar is here to elevate your coffee game to new heights. At Heartwork Coffee Bar, they take pride in their craft because each batch is carefully roasted to perfection, ensuring that every sip is a symphony of flavor. From the rich and the robust to the light and fruity, they have a coffee blend for every palate. And here's the best part. For you amazing podcast listeners, Heartwork Coffee Bar is offering an exclusive 10% discount on your purchase. Just use the code Empress10 at checkout and you'll save big on your order. Why settle for ordinary when you can indulge in the extraordinary coffee from Heartwork Coffee Bar? Remember to use code Empress10 for that special 10% discount and treat yourself to the coffee experience that you deserve. Don't miss out on this fantastic offer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks to Heartwork Coffee Bar for making today's episode possible. Now go grab your favorite mug, brew a fresh cup, and enjoy the podcast with the perfect companion, Heartwork Coffee Bar. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to host this lesson session with my girl, Emilee. Emilee and I have been friends for quite a while now, and she's so great. She's getting into tarot. How long have you been reading cards?
Tarot, I've probably been reading for maybe a couple months, but Oracle's been more of my strong point.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
Oracle cards.
yeah. And they're just
I like them
easier to
both.
understand for me.
They are. I have quite a few decks where if I don't feel like thinking about it and I just
Yeah,
kind of want to be in a full receiving mode, I'm I just need the imagery or whatever's going on in this
right.
card to talk to me.
Mhm.
I get it. Okay, so reading for a couple of months. So the way that lesson sessions go, it would be like any other person booking a session with me. We would start with identifying where you're at, what you want to improve, or what you might feel kind of blocked around or concerned about, and then take it from there to help solve it. I'll give you some tips and tricks, all that good stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Talk to me. What do you want help on?
Like in life in general, or are we just talking tarot?
Talking tarot.
Talking tarot, when I see it's just so simple, but it's so stressful when I look at the cards. When they're reversed, I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going on anymore. Even though I
Yeah.
know they're very kind of opposite meanings, but also they're not sometimes. So it's
Right.
just it stresses me out how
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I want all my cards just straight up so I could just understand it. Look at the book, look at the drawings, okay, kind of, combine them both. But when it's reverse, I'm turning to the internet, and the internet, kind of, it helps, but it's not,
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of people on there writing stuff, So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
I want to ask a couple things.
Mhm.
Um, the first one is, do you really align with being a reader that reads cards reversed? Is that really for you, or I'm just
I
curious?
didn't know if that was even a thing that I could ask, I guess,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I never even
Yeah.
really thought about that. I felt like there was always you had to read it how it came out. But
There we
I'm
go. I was like, oh, but do you?
yeah, do you know? No,
Do
you don't.
you? That's the
It's
cool
my
thing.
mind's
So,
yes.
right. And so I feel like a lot of times I've seen this. I don't know if this is anything like you've picked up, but I've seen this in the spiritual community or the tarot reading community where if you read reverse cards, that means something. If you don't read reverse cards, that means something else. And people have again their beliefs about it. But if you're talking about your power
Mhm.
and listening to what is in your soul and what you need to connect with the cards, I'm just going to put it out there that you don't have to read cards in the reverse position.
That
And
makes sense.
if you don't want to, when a card might flip over in the reverse position, or you do get that random reverse card in the deck, even though, that wasn't planned,
Right.
it can be even more meaningful for you to get it that way and be like, oh my
Right.
gosh, like that's interesting. So let's just say that that does happen. Let's say you
Hmm.
decide not to be a reverse card reader, but it occasionally will pop up. Again, there's still a couple things to consider. When the cards are reversed, sometimes you're right. It can be a total opposite. Let's use the devil card, for example.
Hmm.
I'll pick up my deck.
Yeah.
So, in the devil card, you've got these two people, they've got these chains on them. So, upright, we could say, like, okay, maybe they are, no, that's the wrong card. They're stuck in a bad situation,
Right.
right? They're tethered to something, they're playing the
Hmm.
blame game, whatever. And then in the reverse, it's like, okay, maybe they're freeing themselves from their shackles. Maybe
Right.
they're
Right.
learning how to be more empowered.
Hmm.
The other way that I read the devil card or like any of the reverse cards, I kind of think of it as like, well, what if it's something that I'm going through on an individual level?
Right.
Instead of putting the pressure to be something, oh, I have to read it and make sure I get the right definition,
Hmm.
I instead look at it as a perspective. So the devil card could be saying maybe you need to do an internal investigation right now about where you are holding on to something that you need to let go of.
Right.
Maybe you're, being playing a victim to something in your life. And maybe it's not about that external thing that you want to blame. Maybe it is about you. Whereas
Hmm.
if it is just coming up in the upright position, you could say, like, oh, someone else in your life is trying to rope you into something. There could be a bad deal. Do you know what I mean? Like, one of
Yeah.
it's more of like a spiritual lesson that you need to kind of learn
Right.
versus like an outside situation. So
Absolutely.
that's one way that I read them in the reverse position.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that.
yeah. So tell me what else you get when it comes up reverse. Cause I kind of feel like there's a little bit of like, is it perfectionism? Is it panic? Is it both? Like,
I think it is. Also, by the way, real quick, my dog might start barking.
oh,
My partner
okay.
just got home, so
Okay.
just
Oh,
let you know. 'Cause
hi. Hi,
my
partner.
office is
Hi,
in the
dog.
living room at the moment because our kittens
Okay.
are in the room. Anyway, yeah, I think it's more of like this stigma or like this perfectionism in me because
Yeah.
honestly, Jess, like I haven't been like charging for tarot readings or oracle readings because there's like this thing in my mind where I feel like I'm not professional enough or like qualified enough to be able to do that kind of stuff. And then it goes back to, oh, well, like the reverse readings, and it goes back to, oh, well, I don't really understand like the swords and the pentacles and the pages like necessarily. And it's like, well, I don't really feel qualified. So how do you like get past that like qualification? Is it just or like that in that perfectionism of like being qualified, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. Is it
Right.
just repetitive like readings? Is it like what is your opinion on that? Like how did you kind of just like decide, I'm ready to start reading for people like in the public?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time. So, like behind the scenes, I was studying a lot and I was journaling on my own.
Yeah.
And so I recommended these same cards to someone else. So I do think that they're awesome. Um, so they have these little notes
Ooh,
on them.
I love that.
Right. And I think that it really works well as like a flashcard.
It
So,
totally does. And I love
right?
that.
Yeah, I love it too. And so, like, word associations are cool. So, before this particular deck that I'm showing you came out, I actually I'm like such a nerd about it, but like, I
Yeah.
made like a little cheat sheet.
Oh, right,
And
right.
then I had a journal that I would just carry around with my cheat sheet of like, wands mean this and
Mhm.
cups mean this. And then
Right.
I would pull a card and
Mhm.
then just kind of journal about it.
Right.
So it started off with me just studying and I'm building a connection to the cards. And then it
Right.
moved into me pulling cards for other people. But I had, my little notebook out and
Right.
everything as I was like, okay, what could this mean? And so repetition did help me slowly let go of feeling like I needed to actually look at something because then it became memory
Right.
at that point
Right.
again, like that flashcard.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, how do you How do you learn? Like, what's your learning style? Because
You
once you
know?
identify that, then you can kind of format cards to fit the easiest way that you learn.
And that's honestly a very hard question for me because
Okay.
studying has never come easy to me.
Not the vibe.
And no, never. I
Okay.
was always like kind of like a C student, and like
Yeah.
studying, like like I would reread the same page over and over again, right? Like I think I think now that I'm out of school, like kind of like researching on my own, it's just kind
Yeah.
of like you said, just reading stuff and kind of just going over it and writing notes down. Yeah, I do. I remember when I worked for Disney, when I really wanted that, I had
Hmm.
so many notes everywhere.
Right.
And then I got
Yeah.
the job. So, yeah. So it's definitely note taking has helped in the past for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say then note taking. I would
Yeah.
also say what you can do, and I know that this is kind of controversial within the community, but whatever, it's me,
Yeah.
I'm going to stir up the pot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that you could also, as you explore what the meaning of the cards mean to you, is get a marker and write on your cards
Yeah.
and let yourself develop this connection to what these
Right.
cards do mean for you. So you're going to have that normal, intuitive stuff coming through because I feel like our intuition is normal. It's like
Yeah.
just what we're supposed to have and like
Right.
tapped into all the time.
Right.
And then
Which
of
is
course you
stressful.
yeah, I know. And then you could go to the book too and then oh, excuse me, kind of like write down
Yeah.
keywords from the books.
Right.
But it does take time. I think that's the biggest thing. And the more that you practice it, the better you get. It's not something that anyone can take away from you. Like you're
Right.
only going to get better the
Right.
more that you dedicate a little bit of time.
Right. And everyone's different. That's what I do love about it. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like this little voice in the back of my head. It's like someone's gonna like judge you and say that's not right. Well, obviously, if that could be the only other thing that they could say. If otherwise, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's accurate or no, it's not. It's like, why are you
Totally.
so afraid of that negative
It's really
connotation? Like
normal. It's so normal.
I think it's just because I've never done like, truly like public readings with like strangers before. I
Yeah.
feel like once I actually do it, I'll be fine. But
A
it's like
hundred
the
percent.
newness of like scary. It's like, oh God.
Oh, I know. I know. Yeah. Getting over it, getting through
Yeah,
the anxiety.
literally getting over it to get through it. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh,
So I'm wondering what would feel good for you. So I love asking clients like so if you're booking a session with me, a lesson session, and we're getting into like the mentorship of tarot, I
right.
usually ask most of my clients to book a session or a few sessions with people,
Yeah,
some amount of money,
right.
whatever amount of money feels good for you. Because I don't necessarily feel like you have at some point you're going to have to start charging,
Right.
whether or not you're a novice or an expert,
Right.
because the person who has a first day on the job at the reception desk, they might not know everything, but they're still
Right.
getting paid an hour. So you need to get paid for what you're doing because
Right.
you're flipping the cards, you're putting the energy into it, you're doing time and research. You should be paid. Like it is
Right.
an energy exchange that I believe that people are going to be willing to pay. And the other thing too is like remember people are coming to you because they assume that you know what you're doing and you're the
Mm,
expert. So you definitely want to walk in with like a level of confidence, but I don't think there has to be any type of extra pressure of like, oh, I'm going to do this amazing job and make sure I get
right.
everything right. And
Right.
when you're in a session with clients, and again, this can help you determine your style of reading, you can engage in back and forth conversation with your clients.
Right.
So some of my mentees will say, like, okay, they flip the card and then they actually ask the client, what does this card look like to you? Or tell me what's
Mm,
coming up for you. And
right.
then you guys in a co creative space get to talk about what's going on. Other
Right.
people, they're like, I don't want to say anything. I want you to read the cards to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then you would say, okay, here's what I see. I notice that this person in this card is facing this person. So this tells me X, Y, and Z, and like using your
Mm,
intuition and again, like your knowledge to
right.
interpret what's going on.
Right.
But again, the more you do it, the better at it you get. And since I'm on multiple public profiles,
Right.
I've had many people say
Yeah.
things like, I don't like that. I don't agree with it. And
Mm,
I feel like it's also important to remember that it's about the message and
mm,
not you as the messenger. And
right.
it's hard to not take it
Take it personal.
personally
Yeah.
when someone doesn't like what you're saying.
Right. And
And
it's just like, this is what I pulled.
Right. It is what I
Like,
pulled.
yeah.
I know. I try to be very objective and I get it.
Right.
Like, and I will bring some empathy in and be like, well, I fully get that you don't like what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Again, this means that you can prepare yourself for what might be we're predicting is coming down the
Right.
line,
Right.
right? Or if you're wrestling through something now, let's pull more cards to see what
Hmm.
else can be done because this isn't the be all end all.
Right.
um, I haven't had too many people in person, at least. Online is a different story. And I don't think I've actually had anybody in person that said that they didn't like their reading.
That's
I
good.
I like the one-on-ones in with
Yeah.
like FaceTime,
Right.
but on the phone or a text chat, it can be very cold. Like some people
Right.
just want the information. They don't even ask you, how are you? And then they hang up the call
No.
after they get the answer and they don't even
No.
say goodbye.
Right.
So it can be kind of frustrating that way. And I
Right.
get it. You have to really have like a level of detachment and just
Yeah.
saying, like, I'm giving this message. But two, I think even really before going into any session is your mindset and the
Mhm.
self preparation that you engage with. Because
Right.
if you're not in the right space, I'm not saying your readings are going to be wrong,
No,
but
no,
it's
I
much
totally get
more,
it.
yeah, but it's much more likely that you would feel overwhelmed or you'll accidentally pick up like the
For
client's
sure.
energy
For
and
sure.
like, kind of hold on
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely.
So mindset, what if you go into it and you're like, but I know what these cards say.
And I'm good at that type of delusion until my anxiety, those thoughts like this like cycle thoughts kick in. You're like, shut the fuck up. And
Yeah,
you're
I
just like, shut
know.
up. And then you're like, okay, delusion needs to like push past this. And it's like this ever ending battle.
Yeah. Oh, so you feel like it's a battle. It's a little harder for you to be like sit back there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, can you tell me more about that?
My anxiety.
I think it's just more of like, is there a grounding practice that you're doing? Because I look at anxiety and anticipation as the
Mm,
same thing. And then I also
mm,
wonder the performance pressure, the expectation from the client.
mm.
Usually clients have anxiety. So even
Right.
if you're doing it over the phone, you're
Yeah,
an empath, yeah?
yeah, yeah.
So you're picking up their anxiety, and it could be
Right.
something that's informing your own thoughts and
Right.
interpretation of the cards.
Hmm. Yeah.
So are you grounding before you're going into in any reading or
I'm probably not.
okay.
No, now that
Let's
I'm like thinking about it, like no.
okay, that's fine. That's great. That's good
But
information.
good to know. Yeah.
No, totally. Okay, so the
Yeah.
homework for you then would be grounding a little bit.
Hmm.
And the way you're feeling before a session is the way you can keep feeling in a session and
Right.
after a session.
Right.
If you're doing back to back to back to back sessions, which does happen,
Right.
I would imagine that you would feel tired at the end of it, but I
Right.
can't imagine that you would feel anxious or upset or anything. I think that
Right.
again, detaching from giving upsetting news, you don't have to be upset giving upsetting news.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's definitely a
Yeah.
way to give it that's just like, here's what I see. And again, pulling more cards and helping the client out if they don't like what they're
Right.
seeing.
Right.
But it's hard to not feel sometimes like you're fully being rejected or when
Right.
people they're like they are in their own sense of delusion and you're like, yeah, but this person's literally not coming back and they don't want
Right.
to leave you and you're like, but you know what? You don't have to like me
Hmm.
and you don't have to agree.
Right. But like, what if they don't pay you? Like, that's a whole thing. You
What do
know
you
what I mean?
mean?
Like, what do they have to like pay you before your session? Is that
Oh,
how you do it?
100%.
Okay, that's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
There's
like,
no way I would,
no.
no, absolutely not. Let's talk
Okay.
business 101, baby. You get that cash up front. No, I think that there's a good way to do it. So I think that you could also, um, I've seen donation based go one of two ways.
Yeah.
People tip really, really well in donation, or you just don't do anything. You don't make
Right.
anything.
Right.
So that's why I think just having a small amount of money, like $5 or $10 or whatever,
Yeah.
again, feels good for you
Right.
to give that reading and really considering how much, like how much time that's worth for you, how much
Right.
effort you're going to put into their reading.
Yeah,
But
because I could
I
totally do it
definitely,
like on Twitch, Like that's what I was thinking
yeah,
about, like
that's a good
incorporating
idea.
on there, like having people like spend channel points or do like, a certain amount of dono or whatever for a tarot reading. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And again, not to overwhelm you or other people, it
No,
could
yeah,
be helpful to just pull one card on the
right.
situation.
And that's probably what I'd start with, just like one or
Yeah,
two. Yeah, I think
totally.
three's a lot.
Yeah.
Once
Oh,
three,
yeah.
it's three's a crowd. It stresses me out.
No, do what feels comfortable because you
Yeah.
can always add, but then if you have a bunch of them in your face and then then your mind starts to get too heady
Yes. Yes.
and you want to really be in this place of like kind of just chill.
Right. And not just in my head. Exactly.
I think the other thing too is like I see this a lot where people somehow pick up the idea that they need to read cards fast and that they
Mm.
need to give a lot of information.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I say this a lot to my mentees as well. If you took 2 full minutes to look at the cards, it might
Mhm.
seem like that is an infinite amount of time to you as a reader.
Right.
But when I'm in my one-on-one sessions, and we have like we do have a spread sometimes in
Right.
the
Right.
bigger sessions, the longer ones,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of looking at how everything is and what's talking and like facing each other, away from each other. What are the colors? Like I'm really
Mm.
looking at it. It takes time to get that information.
Right. It's
I
not
don't
just like this immediate, you're not a robot.
No, I'm not a robot exactly. Like I'm not Chat GPT. Like I can't just
Right.
spit it out.
Right.
And I
Exactly.
think that if we take the pressure off, just gives us that room to breathe.
Hmm.
And then it also really helps, I think, the client either identify that they have some anxiety they're bringing in so they can take some ownership of it,
Right.
or it puts them at peace
Yeah.
because they're like, she's working, she's like doing her thing, she's like connecting.
Right.
And because I am, because
Right. Like
I
it's
want to
not you're
give,
just like staring, just listening
no,
to music in your head or
no,
no,
no.
no.
Right. Because I want to give a quality reading. So if I
Right.
were quiet for 2 minutes, but the next sentence out of my mouth was that life changing, game changer sentence for them where they're like, whoa, it's clicking, you're
Right.
seeing stuff.
Right.
That's what matters, right? It's
Right.
that ability to make the connection and to help the client with whatever it is that they're bringing in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think too, just remembering it's not always about the quantity, it's about the quality. So
Yeah.
one card can be quality, a few sentences can also be quality, and just kind of vibing and making it again, like, what's your style of reading?
Yeah. Like I just feel like I I like the one card.
Yeah.
I've done it like before on Twitch like a while back, but then
Okay.
I just like kind of stepped back from it because I like start comparing myself obviously to other chair readers who I'm like, well, obviously they've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
So why are you so upset? Like you haven't been putting in the work. So get over that.
Totally.
It's just like this instant
This
gratification if I not
I
get at it right away. I think
know.
that's the Leo in me too. It's so annoying.
So annoying. I
And
get it. I'm the
Aries. And
same.
Aries, yeah.
Well, because we have a lot of the same signs.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that Aries midhaven. I got that Aries Mars. And I'm just like, oh.
I have the Aries moon, so I just want everything right away,
Yeah, just because why not? Why
including my
not?
patience. I'm like, why don't I
Yes,
have it already?
exactly. Exactly. That's
Doesn't make any
delusion.
sense.
That's a Lulu for real.
For real, Delulu girl. Now, but I also think too, like, you can look at other people and learn. Absolutely. I
Yes.
mean, that's what we're doing here.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not fair. You're right. And I'm glad you said that to compare yourself to someone who
No.
has been doing it.
Right.
If you
Like
do it for
you could get
however,
mad, but there's no like that's on you. Like that's on me. Or you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's
yeah,
not on them.
right.
Like good for them.
Yeah. And if anything, like it could be that what you're like you're seeing it for a reason. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm,
inspiring you in a sense because you have it in you. It's just
right.
unlocking it. And
Yes.
again, they didn't get there overnight. They got there by
No.
putting in the
Right.
work.
Of course.
But I think that sometimes the apps, because you can book a reading within like
Mm,
you can get like a 3 minute reading or a five
right.
minute reading. Or you can go on to TikTok or Twitch or whatever, and then people are just like giving like super rapid
Right.
questions. The other thing too is like sometimes readers do that just for money. And that doesn't mean that they're
Mm,
actually giving like a good reading. It
yeah.
doesn't mean that they're actually tuned in.
Right.
And so we have to kind of notice that. But go back to your values, go back to the type of reader that you want to be,
Hmm.
and let that be what sustains you time and time again, and just kind of note what you are seeing from other people and
Hmm.
what you are seeing that also you don't like. So that way you can
Right.
steer clear from that style and be like, well, I don't want to morph into this as time goes on. So how
Right.
can I make sure I hold myself accountable for something
Right.
that's more of your own lane?
Right, exactly. And like now that I come to think of it, you're like, what kind of reader are you? When I look into Oracle, I look at it and then all of a sudden I don't know what I'm saying. So I must be channeling or something. I like step back and I'm like blah 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 for like so long. And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I couldn't even tell you what I just said, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
that's
And
so
that's like how
funny.
that's how it is most of the time. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
like with tarot, once I can actually know the card, then I can actually kind of step back and maybe channel a little bit more. But it's like it's half the time I don't even know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but like it's
No,
accurate.
you're like, I hope this is right. Here we go.
Yeah, but here we
I've
go.
said that. No, no, no. That's the thing
Yeah,
too. Like, I'll even do that with tarot cards. Like, as much as I know, like the
of
foundation of the
course. Right.
card or whatever,
Some things
there's
just come in. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. Or they'll sorry, there was somebody just yelling. There'll be times where it what I'm getting doesn't make any sense as to what I'm
No,
seeing.
no.
And so I'm
And
like,
yeah,
I don't know why I'm picking this up, but here's what
but
I'm
here you go.
picking up. Yeah,
Yep.
totally.
And then they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay,
All right.
great.
Here we go. Yeah,
Don't know how that happened, but apparently my crown was connecting to something. Like,
totally. I'm also wondering, so for the cards regarding it, maybe do you like numerology or do you like astrology? Like
I
what's
do like numerology. I was way into it more like maybe like 5+ years ago. And then I kind of like
okay.
stopped looking into it, kind of like, and astrology is has been like in and out, but I'm definitely more into astrology right now than numerology. I think I can, if I go back into numerology, I could definitely refresh myself because I
Right.
they're pretty simple. 1 through 10 or whatever.
Yeah, I think
But
you
yeah,
could also start using your cards for um from the numerology perspective
yeah.
because you're talking about being able to have associations with things.
Hmm.
So then let's say, okay, we'll go back to the Four of Wands. So this particular deck has these cute words. I usually think of the number 4 as like a container, a boundary, a
Mm,
foundation.
right.
So like whatever your word associations are to the number 4. And
Hmm.
then you would incorporate the other layer of the wands on top of it.
Right.
The wands could be fire energy, spark, and creativity. So then the question is, how might I be protecting my creativity?
Mm,
Or what type of foundation of creativity do I have in my life? Am I
hmm.
neglecting my creativity by
Right.
having no foundation?
Right.
If I didn't
That
have a
makes sense.
foundation, what might I need to build? So just kind of like getting into that place of like layering the
Yeah. And saying it
information.
out loud, I feel like to myself.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
helpful for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, you definitely want to do that
Yeah.
then.
I feel
Yeah,
like
you
that would help.
totally want
Yeah.
to lay that down. And then this deck too, this one has the astrological signs on it.
Yes. And I totally, yeah, like resonate with like elements as well too. So that's
Okay,
good.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I think wherever you have your strengths, just picking
Hmm.
one thing and just taking a week or two, pulling a card every day, every other day, and
Right.
then being like, okay, I got a 4, a 9, and an 8.
Yeah.
What might that mean to me
Hmm.
today? What do I need to
Right.
pay attention to? And then just go from there
Hmm.
and have your journal, have your notes, whatever your learning style is.
Right.
Repetition, I swear, in no time you'll be pulling cards and just like you'll almost be feeling like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing.
Good. I'm excited because
I'm
I
excited
want
for
I
you.
want to like I've been so just like bored. I'm just
Really?
like, because I like just got
Good.
this new job after, getting laid off and everything. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. But it's just been like this kind of like work. And I'm like, what kind of skill or hobby besides gardening when it's nice outside can I do?
Right.
And now I can
Yeah.
build back on that. So yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah. What else comes to mind with tarot?
Honestly, it's just the anxiety of just not feeling like I'm good enough.
I think that's really normal.
And that's just also something way back that I also got to work on with a lot of other things.
Girl, you and me both. So here's the thing. What I like to do, so the only difference between anxiety and anticipation, what
Yeah,
is that? What are
that's
you
a
pointing
cat
at?
paw. That's a cat
Oh my
paw.
God, it's so cute. I love it's you guys off camera can't see, but her cat, there's like a stand to the side of her, and you couldn't see the top of it for a second. So we just saw this like paw dangling at the top of the screen. It was so cute. Oh, I love that. Is it a him or her?
Him, I got six.
I love him. Damn, girl.
Yeah.
So cute.
I love my little farm.
I know, it's so cute.
That's the
So,
dream.
oh my God, I don't know if you can hear this person cursing, but
I
someone's
can.
outside.
I can hear blah 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 blah.
Yeah, there's a bar like two doors down, and sometimes people are
Oh, that
rowdy in the
makes
back because
sense.
there's like a parking lot
Yeah.
area
Oh
that
yeah.
people can be in.
San
All right,
Diego. What are you gonna do?
back on track. I know. Anticipation and
Yes.
anxiety. The
Yes.
differences between the two are mindset. So
Yes. And
I'm
it's
going to
so
ask
hard
you,
sometimes.
girl, I'm going to challenge you anyway because I love you.
I love you
When
too.
you're feeling that energy, I want you to just label it as energy. Stop labeling
Mm,
it as anxiety.
okay.
Say
Okay.
take that word out of your vocab. I'm
Throw it
not
out.
saying, yeah, I'm not saying you can't ever use it.
No,
I'm
I
just
get
saying
it.
like try it out for like a week
Yeah.
and say like this is just energy. This is just energy. And if you're doing something that's new, there's a
Mm,
normal amount of anticipation
right.
and kind of revved up energy
Hmm.
that you would feel because that's what you're supposed to be feeling when
Right.
you're doing something new that you haven't
Right.
done yet. And you're feeling a
Exactly.
little bit like, what could happen? Anything could
Right.
happen.
Yeah. Right.
So just kind of reminding yourself of like, oh, yeah, I'm just anticipating what is coming my way.
Right.
And why can't you tell yourself it's good stuff? Why can't you say, like, well, I know what's going on? Like, I get to take my time. I'm
Right.
anticipating having great readings. I'm anticipating getting clear messages. I'm anticipating the fun of this experience,
Right.
just retraining your brain so you're bringing in nothing but good
Mm,
vibes while you're reading. Because I'm
I
not
agree.
pulling cards for people and being like, oh no,
No.
what if they hate it? Like, I'm not doing that the
No,
whole
no,
time I'm
no,
reading. I'm
no.
not doing that. The
No,
time that
hell
I
no.
can, no,
Yeah.
no,
No.
girl.
You're not that kind of reader. No way.
No. I don't
Imagine.
I don't want to feel no, oh my God, I don't want to feel that way. So for me, my mindset, usually before I actually start a session, I will ground myself and then I'll connect with my cards. I'll pull a couple cards for me. And then I usually just ask spirit to bring in worthy clients, people that are
Right.
excited, people that are
Right.
open, people that
Yeah,
want to hear these messages. I ask
exactly.
for like a high vibrational co-collaborative space where we're just like loving everything and
Right.
messages are cool. So I'm
Right.
envisioning and asking for what I want.
And usually it happens, correct?
Of course.
Yes. Of course.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Not always, but most of the
But most of
time,
the time.
I get
Yep.
super cool
Yep.
people.
Yeah, that's
Again,
great.
the occasional people who like want to hang up, who want to be rude,
As you
who
will with any job
I
or anything.
know,
Yeah.
but in person, I feel like I get the best people.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then as I'm pulling cards, I'm usually just like focused in on their question.
Mm,
So I don't have too many thoughts
right.
like
You're like
outside of
distracted by
that.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I'm mostly just being like, this person wants to know this, or like if they ask a specific question, like, what is this person thinking about me, or what does spirit want me to know
Right.
about this situation?
Right.
I'm kind
And I
of
have to
just like,
remind myself that.
yeah,
Yeah.
task your mind to think about that
Yeah.
because the louder you make what you want to focus on, the less loud the anxious thought patterns
Right.
are going to be there.
Right.
And it's okay that it feels a little bit like a battle because you can absolutely read cards and be anxious and be accurate.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that they always influence each other, but
Right.
I know that in terms of your experience and your confidence, the way you talk to yourself will make you feel better internally. And that's what I
Of
want.
course.
I want you to have a
Right.
better reading experience and I want you to
Yeah.
find it more enjoyable,
Yeah. Me too.
and empowering, you know?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. And like I have to also remind myself that these people who come for tarot readings are more open-minded than the general public. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're not as so close-minded people. And if they are, then like whatever. Like that's just on them. So I have to just be like, these people are wanting to seek information. It's not just like, oh, what are you doing? Like all this just accusation kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Most people aren't going to want to just like then Google what you're saying and to
Right.
tell if you're accurate,
Right.
because most people are going to say, like, yeah, I pick up what you're putting down. Like, wow,
Right.
that's really interesting. Or you've given me something else to think about.
Mhm.
And I appreciate you. So
Right.
again, just kind of, and you might want to preface your readings with like, I'm new, so I would love feedback. And again,
Yeah.
letting the client know that they are a huge part of your process and that this space is something you guys are making together. It's not just, oh, I'm the expert and I know
Yeah.
100% what I'm talking
Right.
about, because people don't like that either.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. For
They
sure.
expect you to be the expert, but they don't necessarily like the
Right.
attitude of superiority. Like those are
Right.
two different vibes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
What else, Boo?
I feel like it's just the anxiety. It's just the energy that I have of the newness of the not knowing if I'm
Hmm.
going to be, but it's like, it's literally just interpretation. Every reader is different. Like, I got to be open, just as open as the client would be. So, I just have to remind myself and just work on my freaking thought patterns and my brain,
Yeah.
around that kind of
Yeah. Like
stuff.
mapping out ahead of time what you want to think about. And
Yeah,
of course,
exactly.
like pulling cards and being like, well, before I go open myself up to the public,
Mhm.
what do I need to know right now about myself?
Right. And ground
And
myself.
spirit could be
Exactly.
like, Queen of Swords,
Right.
high
Right.
vibe thoughts.
Right. And you're like, okay, yeah.
Grounding meditation, get above the uncertainty, because the uncertainty is just as, honestly, girl, a lack of belief in yourself is just as delusional as a belief in yourself. Like,
That's very true.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what if you looked at those anxious or like low vibrational thoughts? What if you actually looked at those as like intrusive thoughts?
Right.
To be like, why would I think that? Because I'm an amazing reader. Why would I think that? That's not even
Right.
my
Yeah.
thought.
Right. Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I can
Right.
connect. Why would I think I can't connect? That's such a weird
Right.
thought to have. And then again,
Right. And
just
I
keep like
totally
shooing it
resonate with
away.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Absolutely.
so excited for you.
Me too. I want to make it a habit and commit to it. So
Yeah.
that's
Just a
it.
card a day, kind of
Yeah, that's
thing.
it. That's it.
Rad. So, what do you have going on later today?
Mm, Aaron just got home. I don't know if he's gonna mow the lawn or anything. Honestly, we don't do too much here, dude.
I like it.
It's okay. Like, we hang out with his family sometimes, but most of the time we're just hanging out. Oh, maybe farmers market for the first time tomorrow.
Cute.
So I
I
got
hope
a
you have
juicer.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to start juicing. Yeah.
You're reminding me, I need to make my turmeric
Yes.
juice. So I'm gonna
And
go
you
get
reminded
this
me. So
juice.
I was like, I gotta get my juicer. And
Coming
then here
full
we are.
circle right now. Look
Yes.
at us go.
Always, always. I love you so
Some
much.
self-caring bitches. I love you. Oh, I hope that you have a good rest of your day. We're going to
You
sign
too.
off of the recording now. So I
Sounds good.
will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you.
Hey, love, I want to ask you to rate and review my podcast. Giving me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts would mean the world to me. I love knowing who's listening and what everyone is getting from the episode, so please take a moment of your time to share your thoughts, and I look forward to reading your reviews soon.